DNA Lady provides personal DNA testing for paternity, immigration, forensic, ancestry, and medical purposes. We are a local community-based business but operate throughout the tri-state area. At DNA Lady, we offer private paternity tests, which are used to determine relationships or possible relationships between family members that will lead to a family secured from unanswered questions or acquisitions. Paternity finds the bond between mother, father, and child. DNA tests are used to confirm paternity, maternity, grandpaternity, siblingship, and avuncular relationships. Family reconstruction testing may be considered if original biological relationships are unknown. One paternity test we offer at the DNA Lady is the trio paternity test. This is a standard paternity test involving the child, mother, and alleged father. Only one mother, one child, and one alleged father need to be tested. The turnaround time is 3 to 5 business days from receipt of all samples. The mother's participation is encouraged because we can identify the DNA she passed along to the child. By process of elimination, the lab can identify the DNA the father has given to the child. The average combined paternity index of a trio is 1 million, while the average CPI of a motherless case is only 10,000. A paternity test provides the strongest case for use in the courts, where the mother's involvement is preferred and sometimes required. The mother's involvement allows her access to the case with questions or concerns, a copy of the paternity results, and a full chain of custody if required. Another paternity test we offer is a motherless paternity test, where paternity can be determined even when the mother is unwilling or unavailable to be tested. Only one child and one alleged father need to be tested. The turnaround is 3 to 5 business days from receipt of all samples. If the mother is unwilling to be tested but can accompany the child to the collection, request that she provide consent for the minor child. Her signature and consent will provide her with access to the case with questions or concerns, a copy of the paternity results, and a full chain of custody. We can also determine paternity when there are related alleged fathers involved. For example, full brothers, half-brothers, or father and son. Their genetic structure can be similar, and they might share the same DNA markers commonly used in a DNA paternity test, meaning both could test positive as a child's biological father. DNA testing is powerful enough to determine paternity, even if the alleged fathers are related, but you must notify our laboratory of this possibility before the testing begins. If there are 2 or more biologically related alleged fathers, you have 3 options. Option number 1, test all biologically related alleged fathers. Test the child, the mother, and all biologically related alleged fathers at the same time to compare their DNA profiles with the child's DNA profile. There will be an additional charge for each additional alleged father tested. Option 2. Test one alleged father with extended analysis. If only one alleged father is available for paternity testing, we can perform additional testing and statistical analysis to reach a conclusive result. There is an additional testing fee for extended testing and analysis. The turnaround time is 14 working days. Option number 3. Test one alleged father without extended analysis. If you are unable to include the other alleged father in the paternity test, we can also run a standard paternity test. However, there is a possibility of false inclusion. The alleged father will be tested as only a random individual, so the results would include the following statement. The paternity calculation does not take into consideration any biological relatives of the alleged. We also offer prenatal paternity tests. A CVS or chorionic villi sampling is usually performed during the 10th to 13th week of gestation. This is done either transcervically through the vagina or transabdominally using a long needle through the abdomen. We also offer amnio or amniocentesis prenatal paternity test, which is usually performed during the 14th to 24th week of gestation. The procedure involves drawing amniotic fluid from the sac surrounding and protecting the fetus. This fluid contains some of the viable cells that have been shed by the fetus. Paternity can be determined before birth through prenatal testing. This can be conducted through the 10th to 24th week of gestation using amniocentesis or chorionic villi sampling collected by an OB/GYN. The mother is required to give a buccal swab sample in all prenatal tests. The mother, a prenatal sample, and one alleged father need to be tested. The turnaround time is 5 business days from receipt of all samples. Because amnio and CVS prenatal paternity tests are invasive, the patient should speak with a physician about the risk involved in prenatal testing. Our fees do not include the OB/GYN fee for collecting the prenatal sample. This fee usually ranges between $500 to $1,500. We have an OB/GYN referral service for patients who do not have access to an OB/GYN. The referral fee for this service is $200. We also conduct post-mortem paternity testing. It is possible to perform DNA testing on deceased individuals using their stored samples. The post-mortem viability test is performed on a sample from a deceased individual to determine if the sample yields sufficient viable DNA to proceed with further testing. The turnaround time is 5 business days from receipt of samples. However, bone and tooth samples require longer turnaround times. The fee for the viability test is separate from the paternity test fee. The fee varies according to the sample type. With post-mortem paternity testing, we suggest clients obtain the following information: the date of autopsy, if an autopsy has or will be performed, race of the deceased individual, type and quantity of available samples, storage method of available samples, type of container the samples have been stored in, the date and cause of death, name and phone number of the next of kin or estate attorney of the deceased, contact information for the facility in possession of the stored samples, and if it is willing to release samples. Many medical examiners and hospitals require either a court order or written permission from the next of kin before releasing the sample. We also conduct maternity tests. A maternity test is performed to confirm the biological relationship between a mother and child, for example, in immigration cases, adoption, and hospital nurseries. Only one alleged mother and one child needs to be tested. The turnaround time is 3 to 5 business days from receipt of all samples. We can also conduct grand paternity tests. According to AARP, nearly 6 million children are raised in households headed by grandparents or other relatives. 2.5 million of these children are without parents in the household at all, leaving their care and upbringing to their grandparents or other relatives. In light of the high out-of-wedlock birth rate, some grandparents must take an extra step and establish their biological relationship through DNA testing in order to gain legal guardianship or visitation rights to their grandchild. Grandparents may have to establish paternity in order to help their son or daughter who may have a child born outside of a marriage to to determine paternity for the completion of the acknowledgement of paternity as quickly as possible. Many grandparents do not want to wait for the state testing because it can take weeks or months to prove or disprove paternity. They want to know whether or not to bond with a grandchild to avoid future family dysfunction. Grandparents may want to establish paternity if the father is deceased, yet his name is not on the birth certificate. Helping the mother establish paternity will allow her to seek Social Security or military child survivor benefits on behalf of the child, while affording grandparents the proof they need to establish legal visitation rights. Establishing paternity in situations where the grandchild may be placed in foster care and preference is given to kinship support. Grandparents may need to prove their biological relationship to the child to take on the role as legal guardian or foster parent. We can also conduct genetic reconstruction. Genetic reconstruction is used to test the relationship between a child and biological relatives of the alleged father if he is deceased or unavailable for testing. Genetic reconstruction can be conducted in two ways. In option number one mother, one child, and one paternal parent of the alleged father and one full sibling of the alleged father are tested. In option number two, one mother, one child, and two full siblings of the alleged father are tested. The turnaround time for genetic reconstruction is 14 business days from receipt of all samples. For circumstances other than these, please contact your account manager. In genetic reconstruction, in general, biological relationship testing, such as genetic reconstruction and siblingship testing, is not as definitive as DNA parentage testing. It is not possible to determine with absolute certainty whether two people are siblings or biologically related in some way other than the parent-child relationship. Results will show a combined related index, which is a statistical value showing the genetic odds in favor of the relationship. This number represents the number of times that the tested individuals are more likely than not to be biologically related in the manner being tested. Chain of custody requirements. These must be fulfilled in order for test results to be defensible in any legal situation. These requirements include the following. Samples are collected by a neutral third party, such as a clinic or lab. The individuals tested are positively identified. For example, they present a government-issued ID to be photocopied and/or they are photographed and fingerprinted. A standard chain of custody kit is used, and each party completes and signs a client identification and consent form. Non-chain of custody requirements. Results of this test are for personal knowledge only and may not be used for legal purposes. We refer these tests as peace of mind tests. The samples are collected by the patients themselves. A beta genetics kit is used and buccal swabs can be collected by the patients themselves at a time and place that they choose. Since the origin of the samples cannot be verified, names are not listed on the report. For example, they will only show child or alleged father, etc. An RL kit number is assigned to each kit and will appear on the report as a reference for the case. There are several benefits of utilizing private paternity testing. A private collector has no interest in or control over results of DNA tests. Samples are sealed in front of you, signed by you, and then placed in an overnight courier envelope. There's no chance of tampering with samples. In-person contact with someone who can interpret and/or explain results to you. It's the same person who collected your samples. You're able to return 6 months later and ask questions about the test with previous identification. You're able to return 3 months later to test a second alleged father and a second child for a discount. And you do not have to stand in front of a judge and court full of people and wait weeks and months just for results. If you or anyone you know is interested in having their DNA collected, make sure you use a local and friendly DNA office. Feel free to contact us at 732-632-8830 to schedule an appointment today.